Today we are presenting an analysis of the telecommunications scandal perpetrated by Global Crossing. Contributing members are Seth Hamilton, Suchita Rathour, Shannon Riemer, Briana Shernaman, and Andrea Stumpf. To begin, we'll examine Global Crossing and the telecommunication industry. In 1997, Global Crossings was founded by Gary Winnick during a time when the telecommunications industry was booming and allowed easy entrance to newcomers. Traditional ways of sharing and obtaining information were being abandoned in place of a superior alternative called the Internet. Global Crossings was born of the idea of becoming a world power in providing Internet access to all parts of the globe. To accomplish their goal, they began to create their own sub-oceanic fiber optic communication lines connecting North and South America, Europe, and the Far East. In 1998, as Global Crossings finished its first cross-Atlantic fiber optic carrier network, the company went public on the stock market at $19 per share. This took place during the dot-com period, where venture capitalists were urging startups to go public. The company grew rapidly from a mere 30 employees to thousands of employees within 18 months. But as supply increased over demand, companies were forced to drop their prices and suffer lost profits. Global Crossings chose to hide their drop in share prices by adopting creative accounting, which ultimately led to their demise. Nearly as quickly as they rose to success, Global Crossing crashed and burned, ultimately filing one of the largest bankruptcies in United States history.
Industry giants like AT&T, MCI, and the Baby Bells were the gatekeepers to the Internet's content. Many people in the new technology field saw this near monopoly of Internet carrying capacity as a challenge. Global Crossing saw the challenge as an opportunity. Global Crossing was entering a market dominated by behemoth industry leaders and saw that they could possibly outmaneuver them in the telecom market by being agile and quick to adapt to the market. And with the Telecommunications Act of 1996 deregulating barriers to entry into telecommunicating, virtually anyone could become a carrier of information, and Global Crossing saw the opportunity of a new market. By having a focused business operating philosophy, Global Crossing was able to offer Internet carrying capacity to a whole new market of new companies offering Internet access to businesses and end users. By not having to manage Internet and user businesses, Global Crossing was able to keep their business operating expenses low while being able to produce a product that was in high demand in a new and limited market. Global Crossing began with offering Internet carrying capacity through sub-ocean fiber optic cables, but they wanted to increase their reach to land-based carrying capacity. Global Crossing started building partnerships with other carrier companies like Quest by arranging reciprocal trading of carrying capacity on each other's networks. Global Crossing also became acquiring new communications businesses at premium prices. This expansion of creating larger amounts of carrying capacity at premium prices would create excessive liabilities and would eventually become a detriment to the company's fiscal health. Also, by being focused on carrying capacity, their lack of diversification would also add to the company's downfall, as technology and the telecom market would change more quickly than they would manage to evolve.
Now we'll go through the major players in Global Crossing's downfall and discuss their personal fraud triangles. Gary Winnick, founder and chairman of the board, stood to lose his company and cushy salary in the event the company did not meet the financial performance requirements set by the banks. I'd say that's significant pressure. Winnick created his own opportunity as he fired those who questioned him and hired his previous auditor to help him skirt the law. His rationalization was that he and other shareholders expected returns, so no one would question the continued growth and Arthur Andersen would be none the wiser. When the company started to nosedive, Winnick sold his shares and walked away with millions. However, the SEC could not manage to gather enough evidence to try him in court. Instead, Winnick paid a mere $55 million in settlement of a class action suit brought by shareholders. He never admitted any guilt. The SEC did have enough evidence to charge Thomas Casey, Joseph Perrone, and Dan Kors. Thomas Casey, chairman and former CEO, felt the same pressures, especially with Winnick breathing down his neck. Several emails were found proving he was aware of the fraudulent accounting practices, as he encouraged swap sales and expressed concerns for the dwindling cash position. His opportunity came in the form of influence. As a top official, Casey had power over others in the company and was able to successfully pressure them into meeting these financial targets. His rationalization was also that everyone would make money without hurting anyone or getting caught. Joseph Perrone, Executive Vice President of Finance, held the key to this fraud success. The former auditor stepped in while former VP Roy Olafson was out for lung cancer treatment. During his time as managing partner with Arthur Andersen, Perrone headed Global Crossing's audits. His connections and knowledge from this experience made him the perfect person to hide fraud. He was able to limit the scope of audits and create convoluted disclosure notes so investors would also be none the wiser. During his start at Global Crossing, Perrone shipped the accounting department from headquarters in Beverly Hills to New Jersey as a means to further separate potentially skeptical reporters from his fraudulent operations. He also hired many of his former colleagues from Arthur Andersen. Rationalizing his actions was easy for Perrone, a man known to compensate his friends well and fire his enemies. Perrone had felt the minute power of the SEC when he was tried for giving his son's company over $1 million worth of business. The SEC penalized him only $325,000 and asked that he be reassigned duties within the company. Perrone believed the likelihood of being caught and the repercussions for such were low. He would get paid, his team of former auditors would keep the fraud under wraps, and everyone would win. Dan Kors, CFO, was also game to exploit the system. He felt the financial pressures placed on him by banks and shareholders. He saw the opportunity to hire Perrone in Olafson's absence and utilize Perrone's lack of ethics, as well as his knowledge of the audit process, to cover his tracks. He rationalized that Perrone would keep the company from getting caught in order to keep the enormously inflated salary that Kors had offered him. Casey, Perrone, and Kors were each penalized by the SEC for $100,000 in connection with a parallel civil action lawsuit.
Financial analysis of the industry, we randomly chose financial statements of AT&T and Qualcomm for comparison. Charts and tables of Global Crossing depicts weaker or lack of entity-level controls. Management should have better or stricter ELC within the company for entities. Risk assessment, fraud prevention, policies regarding business control, and risk management practices. For this analysis, the ratios chosen are debt to equity, total asset turnover, and cash flow per share. Debt to equity is a leverage ratio that compares companies' total liabilities to shareholders' equity. When we look at the ratios for AT&T and Qualcomm, we can see a trend. It shows a steady growth or decline, whereas Global Crossing's ratios shows growth but not as steady as the industry. Total assets turnover shows how much of assets have been used to generate income. There is steady decline in numbers for AT&T and Qualcomm. For Global Crossing, it does not coincide with the industry trend. Per share is preferred by investors and analysts because it is not as easy to hide or change like it is often seen in earnings per share, because actual cash flows are determining factors for this. Like other chart discussed, AT&T and Qualcomm are following a trend, but Global Crossing is not. All these ratios and variations in comparison to the industry are red flags on the financial statements of Global Crossing.
The most common fraud that the SEC deals with is financial statement fraud. One way that they can combat this is by comparing financial statements of one company to industry norms. Here we compare Global Crossing's to AT&T. Their operating revenues and net income are vastly different. Global was fairly new to this market, and AT&T had been around for a very long time. The fact that Global was able to show greater revenues while also showing massive losses would not be in line with industry norms. This would have given the SEC a valid reason to look further into Global's accounting practices. Once the SEC has determined that fraud has occurred, they require that companies restate their financial statements. On the left, we can see Global's originally reported income statement. On the right, we see their restated amounts. Here, in 2001 alone, you can see that revenues have dropped by $333 million.